The 2-5-1 progression is clearly one of the most important progressions in jazz. And in this video, I'm going to give you 4 versions of 2-5-1s in the key of C, just to make things easy, and you can do the transposition yourself a little bit later. But the 2-5-1 typically ends a piece in many cases. It is a cadence in that regard, but it also comes in the middle of pieces. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you 4 different 2-5-1 progressions and the different voicings associated with those. And then I'm also going to apply a little bit of that to the jazz standard I Could Write a Book. I'm just going to play through a little bit and just show you where these chord progressions might fit in. All right, we're going to dive in and get started with chord progression number 1. You see it on your screen right here. It's a D minor 11th to G plus 7, which essentially means a sharp 5. So in G, that would be an E flat. And then down to C major 9. So let me play it for you. Now, those last 4 notes that I played, the 8th notes that move, are simply inner voices. We've done videos on inner voices before where certain notes are available for certain chords. So for example, for a major chord, you have available the flat 6, the 6th, and the 7th. And so I'm just ending off that chord with those inner voicings. But the actual chord progression starts with this D minor 11. So it starts with this 10th down here in the bass, and there's also a 5th in there. You have to stretch a little bit to get that. And then in the right hand, you're playing a C triad. It's actually a great sounding chord. I use that one quite a lot. Then you move the leading tones to G. Leading tones meeting the 3rd and the 7th, and they just move on to the next chord as close as possible. So the 3rd of the D minor chord would be F, and then it's staying on F, which is the 3rd becomes the 7th of the next chord in the left hand. And then in the right hand, the 7th falls to become the 3rd of the next chord. So the C falls to become the B, and then when you get to the G7 chord, throw in that sharp 5 or flat 6, and then resolve to C major 9. Okay, we're actually going to use that one in the tune I Could Write a Book, which we'll get to in a few moments. All right, let's move on to the next one. This is done in fourths. So while it's the same progression, there's a million different ways of playing these 2-5-1 progressions. So you can see that in the left hand, you've got fourths. So the root, the 11th, and the 7th. And then in the right hand, you've got the 9th, the 5th, and the root. Great sounding chord. The only thing that's not a 4th is the distance between the C and the E. But it's a lovely modern open sound. And then all we're going to do is we're going to drop everything by a half step. And of course, we're going to a D flat 9, which is essentially the tritone substitution of G7. So they have the same tritone, right? D flat 7 and G7, same tritone. So let's go and play the first chord. Then let's just drop everything in the right hand by a half step. And then some things in the left hand by a half step, but we're basically going to the D flat 7 in root position. So root, 3rd, and 7th. And the right hand again, just falling a half step. So, and you'll hear that a lot in jazz. And that's why it makes a great progression. So, and then another step down to C major 6, 9. So in the left hand again, you've got 1, 3, and 7. In the right hand, you've got 9, 5, and 1. So here's the progression again. That one you can definitely use over and over again. It is quite popular. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, at first glance, this next one is also in fourths. Uses the same fourths is in the last one, except there's a third on top this time. So we're changing the melody note. But then when we go to the next chord, we're going to play this one, which is really nice, which is a sharp 9 up here. You can see that, it's written there. And also a flat 13, which is the E flat. So this is a sharp 9 flat 13 chord. What a great sound. And then we're going to resolve that to D over C, which is essentially a C major 7, sharp 11 being the F sharp. So let's play that whole chord progression again. Okay, that one's fun. And then the last one starts the same as the previous one. So you've got this chord is the same as this one up here. So that's the same. But this time, instead of going to here, we're just going to go and drop a half step in the right hand. So this is a half step down. So what you've got in the right hand, if you pay attention to this, you've got an F triad going to an E triad. So this is just E. So one more time. Okay, there's 4 very useful 2-5-1 progressions. Let me put a link to download this sheet music. It's absolutely free to do, so I'm going to throw that up here in the corner. Now let's apply a little bit of this thought process and chord voicings to the tune I Could Write a Book. So we're going to wing it a little bit and kind of see where they fit in. Let's just start here. I'm just going to use the lead sheet in this particular case, and then when I get to the voicings that I'm going to use, I'll point them out. So there's the D minor 7th to G7. Now it doesn't resolve to C, but I'm speaking, of course, of this. So if you go to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th bar, D minor 7. Actually, let me just make a quick screenshot so I'm clear about what I'm pointing out. So right here, this chord progression, even though it doesn't go to a C chord, it's a C over E chord, you're basically playing that first one that we did in our exercise. So if you go back to the exercise, you can see it. It's the very first one in the list, which is here. Right? So all I'm doing is I'm duplicating that in the middle of the tune. So starting on the second line. And I need to go back because I'm on a screenshot to get to the rest of the tune. There it is again. It's an A, B, A, C tune, so a different ending. Nice line cliche there on the left hand, by the way. So now we have an opportunity to use a different voicing here on this chord, this one here, and instead of using the G7, we're going to use one of our voicings from our exercise, a D flat 7 chord. So we've got this chord voicing, which is very similar to the one that we did in the exercise. And then for the C6 chord, we're going to throw down a 4th in the right hand. And if this was the bass down here, we're going to do the full C and E, which is the 10th. So take the voices that I've given you in the exercise. There's 4 different 2-5-1 progressions. And then you might need to change a note or two depending on which song you're doing, which is what we did with I Could Write a Book. You're not going to be able to take these voicings as is and apply them just to every song. You have to take into consideration the melody, whether it falls in the middle of the tune or at the end of the tune. And again, you just have to rework these voicings a little bit. Change a note here, change the melody here and there. And that's basically how it works. I hope those progressions are infinitely useful to you. 2-5-1 is, of course, one of the most important progressions in jazz. And it's something that you need to work on, not just in the key of C, of course, but in all keys. All right, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it. Once again, I put a link to the sheet music here that you can download. I put it earlier in the video, but I'm also going to put it below, so you can check out that link below. And by the way, while you're at jazzmental.com, please check out all of the other tutorials and videos. And there's also sheet music there that you can buy and some other freebies that you can grab while you're there. All it takes is an email address for those. So enjoy jazzmental.com. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to subscribe to the channel, we'd love to have you. We're just getting going, almost approaching a couple thousand subscribers now. So for those of you that have already been here for a while, thanks so much for staying. And if you want to join, just click the little bell and you'll be notified of the upcoming videos that we're making. Thanks so much for your time. I will see you in another video.